Welcome into the CHGO Bears Podcast on a beautiful Wednesday with an amazing guest to start off the show. Shout out as we start the show to our new diehards from yesterday. Jason, J-Man is in as a diehard. So is Chris. Let's go, Jason and Chris. ALLCITY.com. Become a diehard. Do you sound terrible? Is that why you're laughing at him?
I am laughing at him because the first words out of his mouth were, let's go.
I'm cursed. I'm cursed.
Okay.
I have the phlegm curse.
But look who's here, everyone.
Look who's here indeed. The single season record holder still for passing yards in a Chicago Bears uniform wearing number 12. Hopefully we won't be saying this next year. I don't know. In 2 years, sometime soon. 3,838 yards. He also holds the single season record for touchdown passes with 29. By the way, the NFL record is 55. Someday we'll get to 30 here in Chicago. Erik Kramer, who has a new book out, The Ultimate Comeback, which we'll get into Erik's journey. Some of you, I think, probably know at least part of his journey, but this is, obviously a great Bear and a great human being that we're getting to talk to start
Absolutely.
the show today. So, Erik, thanks so much for making time for us.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, man. It certainly is a good time of the year for four teams anyway.
Well, okay, let's start there before we get into the Bears and then some of the, the truly important stuff, the human being. Look, I'm rooting for the Lions. I think it's a cool story. You were there for 3 years. You were, of course, a Bear for 5 years. You've been in Detroit. You're experiencing it. All the fandom going nuts. You're running into Calvin Johnson, the whole thing. So can you just, I don't know, talk to Bears fans right now and say, like, hey, it's kind of a cool thing what's going on up in there in Detroit, and they'll probably go back to being the Lions sooner than later, right? So it's not for life. We can just enjoy them right now.
Well, here's how I would look at it if I'm a Bears fan. I would look at it like the Lions this year are the Bears next year. And the Lions are set up to be here a while, as I believe the Bears will be as well. There's just too many good things going on within both organizations for that not to be the case.
Yeah, I think a lot of Bears fans feel that way. I think we would have felt a little stronger about it had we knocked Green Bay out of the playoffs the way the Lions did last year. Right. But, yeah, I mean, you've been on here the sidelines the last couple of weeks at these Lions games. For you, what's that been like to see a fan base that's been, we're all starved to get the quarterback right. We're all starved to win a Super Bowl for the first time since 1985. But to be there with the Lions fan base and first time winning the playoffs in 31 years, what's that like? Because on TV, we're seeing the emotion, grown men crying, showing that emotion for the team they love. I think a lot of fans can relate to that.
For sure. I mean, you remember when the Cubs won the World Series, what was it, 2016, how were there literally lifelong Cubs fans on the floor rolling around, cannot believe this happened. That's what's going on in Detroit right now. Yep. And when Chicago does the same thing next year, that's exactly what will happen there as well. Because there's two cities that have pretty much mirrored each other football-wise for so long now that, there's when you're talking about one blue-collar city, you're talking about the other. And so it's been great to witness it in Detroit in the same way, because there are people that came up to, like I did this one interview. It was at a Pistons game with this woman, and she goes, I could tell by what she was saying that she had not seen me play. She was born back in 1991. And she goes, but my parents loved you. So I think that's the feeling I get, is like there are generations of fans in Detroit that have been starved for this, just like there are in Chicago.
Yeah, I love the Cub reference because that's exactly how I was kind of looking at it. I was at Wrigley Field when they went to the World Series, which was Game 7 was obviously in Cleveland, but they go to the World Series, and I'm walking around with a quarter, and people are crying, and I'm like, is this the greatest day of your life? And they're like, well, I've had 3 kids, but I got to say it is. Like, that's literally what they were saying, and it seems like that's kind of going on in Detroit.
I'll bet you that you could comment on this probably better than me, but I'll bet you there were more Cubs fans outside of Wrigley that night than were inside Cleveland Stadium.
Yeah. Oh, without question. Yeah, for me, at least in that moment, I thought I was going to be very emotional. I was with my mom and my wife and a good friend of mine. But because Rajai Davis hit that game-tying home run, and the fear of blowing it was just wafting over me that when they won, I was just so relieved that they didn't blow it, because I couldn't have lived with that. I wouldn't have been able to go to work for the next year after a game like that.
Have either of you seen that? It's on YouTube, but Eddie Vedder, the song "Someday We'll Go All the Way," but they did it to that a video montage to that game, and it's the greatest thing I've ever seen. And that's what's literally so Detroit has staged its own watch party inside of Ford Field this game, and I'll bet you it comes close to selling out.
That's awesome.
It's great, and for fan bases that have been through the ringer times 100, like, at least I think on some level, even Bears fans who are in the chat saying no Detroit, it's like, listen, we can at least relate. So I that's kind of where I'm at with Detroit.
I'm
Plus,
rooting for my friend Adam's happiness.
There you go. All right, so we talked to you last year at the Super Bowl, Eric. I rewatched the interview this morning, and by the way, you did a great job. It was fantastic. So thanks for doing that. Thanks for being here now. But we of course leaned into Fields, and you were very optimistic that he was going to make a significant jump going year 2 to year 3. I think a lot of Bears fans were, and he did make a jump. Numbers wise, it obviously wasn't nearly where people would like it to be. And now the Bears we're sitting here with the number 1 pick and all the options. But what do you think happened with Justin this year? I don't know how much you got to see, but what's your assessment of what you did see?
I watched it all, and I was shocked, probably more so than anybody, that there seemed to be no correlation to how last season ended and how this year began when it came to Justin Fields. Like, none whatsoever. It was as though we were watching a high school quarterback, and not even a good one. And so, like, I know Chicago's kind of split, meaning some fans think he can still play. There's a lot there. I don't happen to be one of those. And I think with the number 1 overall pick, you've got great options, better options, in fact, than they had last year. And because there are a lot more teams in need of a quarterback, which I believe the Bears are too, and everybody's talking about Caleb Williams, and Matt, that may be the guy. In my opinion, he better be so much better than Bo Nix that it's like not even close. Because for what you could get for that number 1 pick, that's not even close. So there could be 3 number 1 picks that come out of that number 1 pick.
So you're going bold. Trade back, draft Bo Nix, get the value. That's the biggest swing you could possibly take, by the way. If Ryan Poles did that, Eric, you're moving off of Justin, you are moving off of Caleb, and you're drafting, who some people I think would rank maybe the 4th best quarterback in the draft. You could be GM of the year right there if that turns out to be correct, and he shines.
Well, think back what Dallas Cowboys did when they traded Herschel Walker away. And so you basically build teams through the draft for the most part, and acquisitions that make sense, like Montez Sweat, and free agent acquisitions that you don't go pay overboard for. And so to me, so far, that is exactly what Ryan Poles has done. Now, he may think, along with everyone else that who's making this decision, that Caleb Williams is the guy you would never want to pass on. Okay, great. Then he better work out that way, because you could go leverage that number one pick and get an elite left tackle. You could then trade back again and get an elite edge rusher. There's a lot you could do with that number one pick that you couldn't last year.
Bryce, you can go for the next 6 hours, but I just got to get this one out. Because I just rewinding back to Justin. And when we were talking to you about him last year, you said, because we were talking about making him a bigger pocket passer, and you clearly said, if people go back and watch our interview from the Super Bowl last year, you're like, stick with that formula that they were using at the end of the year. And the Bears didn't do that. They tried to do something completely different at the start of the year, and Justin looked lost. The offense looked lost. They started 0-4. So as I'm making a slight case for Justin here, like it was just bizarre how they didn't stick with what was working at the beginning of the year and then had to come back to it. I just didn't get that part.
Well, the guy responsible for not doing that is now gone. And so to me, the guy who, if you did stick with it, still would have had issues, he's at least now worth a number two pick, and a solid one at that. So again, I go back to saying, like, Justin Fields, in how long has he been there now? 3 years?
3
years. In 3 years, he's not shown me, at least, that he has the ability to be consistent enough, meaning reading coverages, looking defenders one way, throwing another, and sort of having the command of the game that all things go through you and the other team, as a result, loses. That I haven't seen that. And I don't know if you guys have, but I know I haven't. And so I think he's played well enough after, by no coincidence, watching Tyson Bagent do it for 4 weeks. And so to me, I think you've got Tyson Bagent, who could for sure lead the season off if necessary. And, again, this team is built, to me, so well with so many good young players. That would be the way I go.
So because I think a lot of Bears fans, how split the fan base is right now over this whole thing with Fields. So you're saying, even because you acknowledge that, hey, Getsy's gone now, he's part of the problem, and so you don't put as much weight into the environment around him here these last 3 years when you contrast that to his personal accountability of his own development.
I don't. Now it's always helpful if the coaching staff is on point. But great players don't always play for great coaches. And so there's a lot you can do to learn on your own by watching how other people do it. And it's all it takes is time and energy on your part. And so I do not subscribe to, because Luke Getsy had his share of the problems, therefore that gives Justin Fields a free pass. No, it doesn't. Not at all.
So obviously saying you'd take Bo Nix over Caleb Williams and Drake May and even Jaden Daniels, who there's some draft evaluators that have them going 1, 2, and 3. That certainly stands out. Is that because of how highly you think of Bo Nix, or like, how do you view those other 3 quarterbacks, obviously specifically Caleb Williams? Is it more that you like Bo Nix more, or that you're troubled by what you see with Caleb Williams?
I'm not troubled by anything I see with Caleb Williams. I'm just saying that he better be the Empire State Building much taller in performance than Bo Nix, which I don't think is the case. And I think Bo Nix is a special player, leader, you name it. I saw him. He was part of that Elite 11 group when he came out of high school. And I happened to be down there coaching that when he was there. And he stood out back then. And I don't know. I think he's a guy that went from one college system at Auburn to another college system at Oregon and actually got better. did he really get better, or did the people around him were better? The coaching staff was better. I kind of think it's the latter, and I think that was him already.
Listen, we're saving the tape here because people are having a reaction to it, and I like it. We'll see what happens. Listen,
I'm
just saying Bo Nix because I haven't done all the homework. There could be others out there that, Brock Purdy's got a brother that looked good in the one game I saw him play at Nebraska. And so, like I said, I wouldn't get hung up on one guy.
Well, and I just think from everything you've said here so far, I mean, this is a very intense time to be a Bears fan. There's a lot of infighting going on, and you come on here and say Fields is not good. Tyson Bagent played well at one point. I don't know if that's exactly what you said, but like Bo Nix. And this is a big Tyson Bagent guy over here. Bo Nix over Caleb Williams and Drake May and Jaden Daniels. So like people watching our show now, and people that will watch this later, I'm sure are going to have a very strong reaction. But I've watched you break down the tape, with the Tape Never Lies guys, Phil and Shane. They're good friends of mine. So it's, I think for some veteran players, they're going to have their opinion, but they don't necessarily key in on stuff. But you are somebody that does still follow the game and watch the tape and break it down on your own platform.
So I'm interested like anybody else is. And I like when I talk about something, if I'm going to have an opinion, I want it to be based on what I see. And so what I see is that what we've been talking about just now. And if it helps your ratings and people having visceral responses to it, so much the better. But I just have to say what I think, and what I think is what I've seen over time.
I support it. You are allowed to have an opinion. You have the single season record for passing yards in Chicago Bears history. Nobody in our chat who disagrees with you right now does, and there's plenty of people who. So listen, the man. I give you all the respect in the world, but I give you more respect, Erik, as a human being. Your journey is incredible, and by the way, for me to say that is something, because if I could have picked one thing in my life to happen, like I would have given up years on my life to have gotten to play professional sports for just for 5 seconds, really. Like I put that big of a pedestal on getting to that level. And you're talking about how your life is better now into your 50s than it was when you were actually playing. So can you just sort of explain how you're enjoying yourself more today than you did running out on the football field? Because that seems like impossible to me.
Right. Well, I enjoyed it then too, but I think that there were so many more factors there back then in my own life outside of football that made it complicated, and so I think now, I'm very grateful, first of all, to be here because, I did have a suicide attempt, and for all intents and purposes, I should have been, for lack of a better word, successful. But thank God I wasn't, because now I just feel the purpose that I feel now is to be here, for all the people that I wouldn't have been here before and had the misperception that I was all by myself when I never really was. And then obviously there's things that I'm involved in putting together, a couple of projects to begin with. You mentioned this book, and that's I get so much gratitude out and fulfillment really for like speaking about this book. And I've only done it once. But things are leading to that happening more times now. And I suppose the number of topics that are hit on in this book are so relevant to other people in their lives that, it becomes a great dialogue.
Yeah. My wife's a nurse practitioner and she deals with young kids every day. And I think with the era of social media, depression and suicide rates are skyrocketing. how important, how hard was it for you to be honest about your suicide attempt, and how important was that to get that message out and have a positive effect on others?
Well, that's a great question, and I think it's the only way to be significant when you tell your story, as I've done, is to be honest about it. I mean, so when you're talking about a suicide attempt, why would you hide that? Why would you be ashamed of that or feel any guilt? Like, that's the reason I'm here, is that, and what led to that. And so the program that I've developed in conjunction with a couple of other people comes right out of that. It comes right out of depression, meaning, why wait that long to get there? And so your wife being a nurse practitioner, one of the programs, it's called Mental Health Touchdown. It hasn't happened just yet, but it was supposed to happen this past August. So it's a program that I'm looking to get sponsored that deals with young kids and families to begin with. So we're going to start this with one elementary after-school program and one middle school after-school program right here where I live in Thousand Oaks. And so the idea that before you ever get to be 30, 40, or 50, when you're young, 8, 9, 10 years old, that you start to identify qualities in people that you aspire to, hopefully in yourself too. But things at 9 years old would be, telling the truth, or having your friends back, or in whatever way that shows up for you. But the beauty of it is it can all be acted out. And there's a woman I'm associated with now. Her name's Catherine Casimir, and she's been doing this sort of work for years. Her background is in improv, which leads to social change theater. She was one of the first ones to start this. Wow. And so when you work with young people and families on, kind of acting out these scenes, really, as to what the positive traits look like in people, and then how do you approach a person that you're looking to put on your home team, and you act that out too. And then when it comes to dealing with stuff like bullying, we're not going to certainly ignore it. We're going to make that a focus of it, and social media and all that. And so, but is anybody going to raise their hand and go, you know what? I loved how put her name or his name in there. I loved how they pulled a couple people together to isolate this one person and make them feel outside of everything. Like, who's going to go, I love that? Nobody. So you're going to, over time, build your own little home team so that you can go to them when times are good, and you can go to them when you're facing challenges, and even better, they can come to you when they notice something might be off. Yep. And so if you start that around age 9 and 10, and you include not just them, but their entire family, then by the time you're 18, getting out of high school, now for half your life, that's been who you are. And that's who you carry forward. And that home team you have that started at age 9 has now, you've worked to cultivate that over these last however many years.
Yeah, I think it's a great strategy. I mean, something I had a real problem with. I mean, Carman, all these guys know here at the studio, I'm a people pleaser. I want everybody to like me. And when I was growing up, I had 70 friends. I think I had 14 people stand up in my wedding. I wanted everyone to be involved in my party that was my life. But as I got older, I realized not everybody was in my corner and had my best interests and were truly rooting for me. And I had to learn to get my circle a lot smaller. And I appreciate what you do with your platform to speak on depression and speak on your suicide attempt. I grew up, with depression. I was the bully in my life, and I was bullied in my life as well. It was both. And when you're a kid going through this, it can be difficult to navigate that through. And I can only imagine how hard that is nowadays for kids with social media. I can't imagine what I would have been like with social media. I have a daughter that's 5, and my goal is to try to give her a clear pathway to having a happy life. So your advice on the home team, I think, really resonated with me really well here today.
Well, going back to what you were talking about, you were a bully and then you were also bullied. For someone to be a bully, and I'm no expert, I'm not a psychologist, I'm not a social worker, but that person most likely is an unhappy person themselves for whatever reason.
Yep.
So they don't necessarily want to feel that themselves as much as they want to make that be felt by somebody else. And so those things can be acted out too. It doesn't have to be, oh, that's the worst person who ever lived. We've all got issues. And so let's bring those out so that people that find themselves in pain, which is where being a bully comes from, then you act all that stuff out, and then that person is not a bully themselves. In fact, they're accepted. And because that bully person, I'm going to guess, you would know better than me, but you probably felt isolated at some point in your own life. As much as you want to please everybody, and as many friends as you want to have, I guarantee you, or I should let you ask, were there times when you felt that you yourself were isolated or in some way?
100%. It was a front, I would have huge parties. I'd have tons of friends, but deep down I'd be at my house and I wasn't happy with my life, 100%. And it took me a long time. I've always been honest with myself. That's kind of the one thing that's helped me is I've never lied to myself. I know who I am as a person, and I know why I have the emotional reactions that I do, but I can't always control those. I still to this day, have to navigate through those emotions. But at the end of the day, I think the first step is acknowledging it and then understanding why you react to things.
I think that's very well put. Very well said.
So, listen, everyone's got their journey around this, and the bully part of it. Like, I mean, if you go back to that age, I mean, I made fun of kids. I got made fun of. I was unhappy. The whole trying to dunk on someone to make you feel better, make them miserable. However you just put it, Eric, was spot on. And to the depression point, a lot of kids, look, they're trying to figure out school, social life. They have no idea that they're actually quote unquote depressed or just having challenges. Sure. and how even to talk about that. And then,
right.
Depending on what's going at home with your parents, you could have a parent who might be so progressive as saying like, let me get you into some child coaching therapy program where you can actually talk to someone. That's amazing. Huge power there. And you're getting ahead of the game. But a lot of parents aren't thinking that way. Plus, don't even have an idea that that's even an option. Plus, just a lot of stuff going on here. But back to you, Eric. Is it just going through what happened and talking about this? Is it like reopening a wound each time, or I just would think it'd be a lot to go back through. Yes, I took a gun. I put it to myself. It's a miracle I'm alive. I've never talked to anybody like that. It's like you shouldn't be here, but you are, and you can sort of explain what I'm most of like, what was that moment like where you actually had the courage in my mind to even pull the trigger? Like that's like, who can get to that point? Like I can't understand it. As much as I've wanted to lay in bed all day and not go and do whatever I had to do that day, I can get to there, but I can't get to where you got to. And I don't want to make it super painful, but I'm also super interested.
So to answer your question, thanks for laying it out that way and sort of giving some background detail to what was a very painful time. But to go back now to that time is not painful at all. In fact, it's just the opposite. I really enjoy sharing my story and what got me to wherever point in life I got to, meaning good or bad. I have no problem sharing that with somebody else because it engages what people are going through themselves. I mean, when someone's seeing it, I don't know their story. So if I go first, that pretty much opens the door for them. And the whole point is to really help each other. And as you guys mentioned, we've all been through stuff. And so why act like it didn't happen? Instead, why not create a game plan from here that kind of goes, oh, the train's going? Well, I'll hop on. And, that's kind of, to me, the opposite of that would be to not say anything and to just go on living without really engaging your community, meaning starting with your own family and friends. And, everybody's going through something at every day. And so why not be the sort of light that helps them pave their own way?
And I think that's what makes sports special in a lot of ways. For me, it's always been a place I can go to have fun and get away from the realities of life. It's something that brings lots of people together from all walks of life. And, there's just nowadays in society, there's so very few common grounds where people can come together and agree on something. And sports is still one of those to an extent until we're arguing about the quarterback position, but that is what makes it special. I mean, to try to steer this back into a little bit of Bears, because I did have, with Dan Campbell, I love Dan Campbell with the Lions. He's my spirit animal. There's
if he ever leaves the Lions, shouldn't he become like a life coach?
Yes.
Who wouldn't want to not play for the guy, but who wouldn't want to live around that aura for sure?
Yeah. I would run through a brick wall for him right now, and he's the coach of my rival team. But, there's very few CEO head coaches out there. It's starting to become very specific. Like everybody's looking for the next great play caller to be your head coach. But Dan's the CEO of that team. And, here in Chicago, the Bears chose to keep Matt Eberflus, who, has the defensive side of it, but they build him as to be a CEO type head coach. Like, where do you stand when it comes to that? Like, everybody's trying to find the next new wave of play callers, but Dan is doing it a different way while the rest of the league is. And do you think that one day the league will trend back towards those types of coaches?
Well, I think that it really doesn't matter if you're a defensive caller or an offensive caller. It makes no difference. What does matter is that the guys that are always at the top, offensively or defensively, are leaders of people, period. And when you can inspire others not to just do their job, but to actually play because they're invested in you, because they've seen you become invested in them over time. And that's Dan Campbell. When you mention CEO, I think of a guy in a pent up business suit and briefcase in hand, and the little people to him are everybody that's not him. Whereas that's not Dan Campbell.
Right.
Dan Campbell is one of the guys. And, but I think he's so passionate about what he does and who he believes in, that is what meshes that team together. I'll bet you Dan Campbell could give a workshop on leadership for other people. And I don't care what those group of other people do. It could be coach football. It could be, as you said, running some company. The idea is that you get everybody with one purpose, and you all work towards that purpose. And the idea is that, let's say the three of us were on some company or leaders in some company or some football team or some who knows what. It's our three jobs to focus on what's going to be our goal. Well, whatever we decide that to be, then it's your job and my job, that amongst the three of us, we find ways to observe each other and build each other up, because we're all three going to get better at whatever we focus on and whatever somebody else helps us focus on. and that permeates to the rest of that whole organization. So that's Dan Campbell, and and I think Matt Eberflus has some of that in him as well. I got it. He's a defensive guy. Kind of the thought process is there, but he's also, you've never heard any throughout the year, at least I haven't heard any offensive player in any way disparage, well, he's a defensive guy. No, he's a head coach, and so it's his job to pull everybody in that locker room, regardless of position, regardless of side of the ball. You know, a lot of the team makes their headway on special teams as kind of their second position. But I just think that he's not alone in that regard. Meaning there are others out there just like that. You know, I'll guarantee you Kyle Shanahan's like that. And just because he happens to coach one side of the ball doesn't mean he doesn't know how to lead people.
Yep.
So I like your analogy though to Dan being not being sort of a specialist on either side of the ball, but a leader of everybody inside that locker room, meaning everybody in that building.
Yep.
People above him and below him.
Yeah, I was a bricklayer
modern day Ditka.
Yeah, I was a bricklayer
sorta,
for 20 years before someone was silly enough to give me a job in this industry. And so, yeah, I would love Dan Campbell to be on the wall laying brick with me. He'd motivate me to get a few more on there. Maybe we should all, me, you, Dan Campbell, we'll have Carm labor, and we'll start building some houses.
Listen, I'm in. I'll do anything. I'll even lay brick for Dan Campbell. That guy. And I was with everybody too. This guy's a complete idiot. What do you say? Bite ankles, and then we're gonna eat your knee, and then we're gonna. But like, hey.
But now they're putting T-shirts on. Okay, who's gonna get their kneecaps bitten off next?
Right. Exactly.
Well,
exactly.
if we see Dan at the Super Bowl, if they're lucky enough to get there, that's the question I want to ask Dan Campbell is how he likes his ankles. Medium rare, well done. You know, that's the key. Because if you're not cooking it medium rare, then I start to question your evaluation of it.
By the way, you guys going to be out there again at the Super Bowl Radio Row and all that?
We are. We're looking forward to it, and I assume you're going, Eric. Is that
yeah? I'll be there late in the week. Yep.
Okay, we're gonna hunt you down. We'll do part 2 of this. The book, though, just as we wrap up here. The Ultimate Comeback, and if you see, it's written with William Croyle, and this is a super interesting guy that you partnered with here, Eric, because, I mean, he wrote a book, he looks for different, amazing stories, which is Eric's story, and he wrote a book like the last guy that I think that was pulled out of the rubble in 9/11 or one, just some crazy stuff.
It was a young woman,
young woman, yeah. So and he reached out to you, correct? William Croyle did?
What he did is he actually reached out. You mentioned Dan Wetzel earlier. Dan wrote an article. Bill Keenest, who was the Lions media relations director back then, got a hold of Dan, and Dan wrote an article. Really was the first one. And William, or Bill as he goes by, contacted Anna Durgan, a friend of mine. And because she was quoted in there more than me, actually. And so he got a hold of her somehow, and she says, hey, there's a guy named Bill Croyle that would like to really talk to you about potentially writing a book together. And I said, oh, okay. And so we I didn't know who he was. And so he's an easy guy to talk to, asks a lot of good questions, and is very, I don't know what the word is, sort of like the opposite of pushy, deferential. Is that the right word? Where, he just
approachable,
very, but he was very easygoing in the way he approached me, meaning that he wasn't like sitting on a spring when I answered the phone. And so anyway, we developed a nice relationship and still do. And I've still never met him face to face, and seen him on Zooms and mostly over the phone. And just an incredibly nice man and well accomplished, I think, as a writer. The book you mentioned, Angel in the Rubble, I asked him, I said, well, give me the name of a book. And I think he's, 11 or 12, something. And I said, give me the name of a book that you think I should read. He goes, oh, gosh, I don't know. And that's the one he mentioned. So I still have it. And I could tell in the first couple of paragraphs that obviously he knows what he's doing. And so I think, the collaboration we had together on this was really well done.
I enjoyed your analogy there of sitting on a spring, because I do think you just talked to at least one person, probably two, who sit on a spring in today's interview. Would you not agree? If you're a Yeah. Okay. So all sides. Hey, Erik, great to see you. Thanks so much, and we look forward to running into you at the Super Bowl. Always a pleasure to talk to you, and congrats on the book.
Thank you, fellas. Have a good one.
Thank you.
Our pleasure. The ultimate comeback, the great Erik Kramer with us
The
here.
ultimate interview there. That
awesome.
got intense.
Yeah,
It's great.
Yeah. What a hero of a person.
Yeah, it's inspiring stuff. There's no question about it.
So, speaking of keeping yourself in a good mental health spot, here's a transition for you, Braggsy.
Oh, there we go. You're a pro.
Doing your best to stay in shape is a good part of it too. How do you do that? You become a member at Midtown Athletic Club. By the way, come out and see us tomorrow at Midtown Athletic Club in Bannockburn. Show is going to be live.
People that come can have free access and a free pass to get in.
Everything is free. You're coming on in. There's going to be a happy hour at 3:00, which is also apparently on the house, which is a beautiful thing. So come on out to Midtown in Bannockburn tomorrow. What's up?
I said on the house.
On the house,
All
buddy.
right.
There you go.
Let's party.
4 locations: Palatine, Bannockburn that I'm talking about, Willowbrook, and of course Midtown Athletic Club and Hotel in the middle of Bucktown and Lincoln Park. The nicest fitness club that you will ever go to, and just a ton of features. The locker room, which is where I like to hang out. Wet and dry saunas, steam room, outdoor pools, indoor pools. Gregory Braggs at the hotel. High interval trainings, yoga, boxing, cycling, cross training, group exercise, and the best tennis courts going. Indoor, outdoor, paddle, pickle, the whole thing. It's just a phenomenal place. And yes, CHGO Bears and the Chicago Sports Podcast are going to be there tomorrow, live from Midtown Bannockburn. Thursday, January the 25th. Guest the show, complimentary that day. Come check out the space, catch the show. Head over to midtown.com/CHGO. Find out more and tour the Midtown Athletic Club nearest you. I will be giving tennis lessons to anybody who asks afterwards. If there's open courts, I'll pay for that myself. Let's have anybody. We'll go like a nice. Let's get out there. Let's play.
That's
too,
right.
buddy.
That's right.
You're up now.
Yeah, I know I'm up. I'm
Are
sorry.
you okay? Do you want me to do it? I
No,
can do it.
you're good.
Are you
You're
sure?
good, because I just want to tell everybody to head out to Game Time while I'm texting people while I'm supposed to be doing my job.
Why don't I handle Game Time and you just do what you got to do over there?
Thank you. That would help.
Game Time tickets. You know it. You love it. You need to download it. It's the easiest way to find and buy tickets for every kind of event in your area: sports, concerts, theater, everything. Lowest price guarantee, event cancellation protection. Game Time is the only ticketing app that gives you the complete peace of mind with your purchase. We talk about it every day here. Look, just do it now. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code CHGO. Your first purchase, you get $20 off. And yes, terms do apply. But again, create that account, and the redeem code is CHGO, $20 off. I love the zone deals. You pick the section, Game Time picks the seats. You get an average of about 18% savings on those. That's a sweet way to go about it if you just want to get in and see the Bulls blow a 23-point lead to the Phoenix Suns. Of course, they did that on the road. But
I hit that money line, though.
You did?
I took the Suns plus like 175 when they were down like 13 or something like that.
Way to go, Lawrence.
Yeah, you know.
That's a
I
good
knew,
job.
I knew it was coming.
Plus 170. I hate that bet, but congratulations on that bet. All right. I want to explore one scenario here as we get into the Bears situation, as I continue to look at this every day. And it's less and less likely, it seems, that the Bears are going to, quote-unquote, trade down. Not quote-unquote, that they will trade out of the pick. I think most people think they're going to take the pick, but let's call it at least a 20% chance that they trade the pick? 10%? Whatever. Doesn't matter. You have to, I think an important thing to remember here, for those who want to trade out, in my mind, your hypothesis must be at the start that you fully believe that any Justin Fields problem in years 1, 2, and 3 was because of the Bears and Luke Getsy and Matt Nagy and
Personnel.
Like you have to put a large part on the Bears, which is fine. You certainly can make that argument. And then you have to believe that he is going to transform under Shane Waldron and perhaps even an evolving Matt Eberflus in what will be his third year as head coach, along with the talent that's coming in. You have to really have a firm belief that he is going to make a significant leap. Now,
hit the ground running in their first year.
Hit the ground running, playoff team next year, and you have to believe in your heart deeply that this guy is capable of winning a Super Bowl. Okay, but let's just say that you have that thought. For all the Fields diehards out there, God bless you. That's great. That's your thought. Okay, I'm just here to remind you of how lucky, extremely lucky, the Bears have gotten to, 1, have the number 1 pick last year, and 2, have it again this year.
Yep.
That is insane what basically has happened here. The Carolina Panthers, if we start with this year, you traded with a team that had the 9th overall pick who finished 7-10, tied for second in the NFC South. Okay, there was 3 teams that were 7-10. All right? The Houston Texans were 3-13-1 last year. 3-13-1. The Bears got the number 1 pick because they were 3-14. The reason why I'm bringing up the Texans is that the Texans got it right with their quarterback and the Panthers got it wrong. That is a coin flip, all right? It could have gone the other way. Houston went from 3-13-1 to 10 wins. If the Panthers had gotten it right, we wouldn't be sitting in this situation, and that was at best a 50-50 shot. Houston got it right. They won 10. Carolina got it wrong.
Bears benefit.
Bears miracle, basically, I would almost call it, that they got the number 1 pick
miracle
again.
The Panthers were the worst team in football. But where this all started was the Texans beating the Colts on the final week of the season,
right,
on a miracle play that they shouldn't have been trying to win.
Exactly. Another miracle. And go back before that. The Bears lost by 3 to the Dolphins. They lost by 1 to Detroit in a game they absolutely should have won.
Houston almost beat them.
We had the one bizarre Roquan Smith. Well, that would have been good for him, but regardless, you lost. Never mind. You lost by that didn't happen. You lost by 3 to the Falcons. You lost by 5 to the Commanders on a ball that Darnell Mooney dropped in the end zone. You win any of those games, you don't have the number 1 pick in the year that they got. Like the year the Bears won 3 games, they should have won more than 3 games. They should have beaten the Dolphins. They could have beaten Detroit. They could have beaten the Falcons. Mooney at any of those had happened, you wouldn't have had it. All
Panthers lost a lot of close games.
And then Panthers lost by 3 to the Saints, 3 to the Bears and Tyson Bagent.
The Packers.
3 to the Packers, 3 to the Bucks, right? So
it took a lot of variables.
A miracle. 2 miracles, basically, for the Bears to get back-to-back 1 picks, all right? You are not in this position very often.
Right.
And they had, there was a tremendous amount of luck to get there.
So the saying that we keep butchering here on the show, and we probably will hear again, is to keep Fields, instead of drafting the hope of Caleb, is a bird in the hand is worth 2 in the bush. We got it. We got it right. But to that point, when you talk about passing on Caleb Williams, well, he is also the bird in the hand. And to trade it back and say, well, we'll push the quarterback decision down the road, that's the 2 in the bush. So you're risking something with getting rid of Fields, but you're also risking something by getting rid of Caleb when you have him in your hands. It's your decision. Most teams go into an offseason and they have to let the draft fall to them. The Chiefs didn't know they were going to get Patrick Mahomes. They had to wait for Mahomes to fall to a certain spot and trade up to it. That takes a lot of variables. The Bears don't have any other variables other than the decision they make to draft Caleb Williams.
Well, let's also talk
or
about
Drake, whatever, or
also,
any rookie quarterback.
Let's also talk about the Patrick Mahomes thing. You have to get lucky that the team in front of you somehow thinks that Mitchell Trubisky or whoever the quarterback would be is the guy, and they have to get it wrong for then you to get it right.
Right.
So in this case, you don't have, that part doesn't.
That's the whole hypothesis. Well, the league gets players wrong all the time. You know, there's guys that get. Tom Brady was in the 6th round. So, okay, in that scenario, we are just banking on if Fields were to not work out, we're banking on other teams' ineptitude to hope that then the luck falls our way for once.
Right. And so when you look at the decision, if you are going to trade out, you have to get those picks right. Whoever you're building around Justin, you have to get the receiver right. You have to get the edge rusher right. You've got to get a lot of things have to be. You better be right on all of it to truly build a team. Versus like if you just evaluate the quarterback and you get that right, it's going to cover everything else up, as you see with the way Kansas City is. They have that dude. Now, if you don't,
right.
So again,
because let's not forget the template that some Bears fans want to pitch is the 49ers or the Eagles. Build around the quarterback. Well, let's not forget that the 49ers traded 3 first-round picks for Trey Lance and got it wrong. And if not for Brock Purdy being the final pick in the draft and somehow being a good quarterback or better than the options they had before, they're probably firing people because they didn't get the quarterback position right in spite of the fact that they have a great team around them. The Eagles are the same way. Howie Roseman has swung and missed on different things. Carson Wentz didn't work out, but they had the fortune of Jalen Hurts falling to them in the 2nd round, or maybe Howie Roseman isn't running and making the decisions for the Philadelphia Eagles.
well, which is also why, like, look, you just the whole draft a quarterback every year conversation.
Draft smart operation.
Draft philosophy is a smart one because it is such an inexact science, and you can get it right. And by the way, like, people getting all fired up at Erik Kramer with bringing up Bagent. Well, you have to remember, Erik Kramer was a junior college quarterback, and he didn't start in junior college when he first got there. He got to North Carolina State. He had to battle to become a starter there. He was not an instant success in the NFL either. It took him a while to get on the field. And who was Erik Kramer? He's the all-time leader in one season for Bears passing yards and touchdowns.
Right.
And
people go, well, the game is different nowadays. Not in Chicago, it's not, because he still holds those records since 1996 or whatever it was.
Which is why, by the way, that he could look at a guy like Bagent and think that, you know what, this dude in 4 games this year, coming from Division II out of West Virginia, you know, this is I can completely get why he would have some level of respect and even belief in a guy like that, guys like that who don't get a ton of chances, and in the case of San Francisco did, and in the case of Erik Kramer did. At any rate, that's why you draft quarterbacks. That's why you take chances. That's why, credit to the Bears, whatever you want to say about Bagent, credit to the Bears, P.J. Walker we were able to at least identify that this guy's got some talent here, and we think that he can be a credible backup, which he proved to be.
And to talk about trade backs and saying, well, then you're going to get 6 blue-chip players. The Bears traded for Khalil Mack and gave up 2 first-round picks and some other picks to the Oakland Raiders, or the Las Vegas Raiders now. Go look at the players they ascertained. Go look at how that worked out for
Attained. Yeah. Anyway, sorry. Go ahead.
Go look at
good call.
How that worked out for their franchise. You know, go look at Washington when they traded up with the Rams for Robert Griffin III. It's a long time ago, but go look at the trade and look at how it worked out for the Rams. Those players didn't all end up being blue chips. So this hypothesis that you're trading back and all these players are going to be great players and they're all going to work out, it's a numbers game. The more ammo you have, the more likelihood some of those players will work out, but it's certainly not all. And it goes against, whether or not the first pick in the draft will work out. And if you're drafting a quarterback at 1, whoever it is, obviously they have to work out. But if they do, they are worth more than the trade, because this is a quarterback-driven league. And the quarterbacks that are in, this is also a passing league. I know Lamar Jackson is the exception to the rule right now, but even he passes the ball. It's to say that he's not a dual threat and has a great ability to pass the football would be doing a disservice and just referring to Lamar Jackson as different from the other quarterbacks that are still in it.
Yeah. As we wrap up Caleb Justin polls today, it is a bigger risk in my mind, at least for the Bears. And it's if they go this route, I will support it. I'm not gonna say that I'm not gonna call Ryan Poles any names, but it is a bigger risk in my mind, clearly, overwhelmingly, to stay the course that they're going. That is the boldest move he could make. I'm getting all these picks. I'm going to hit on them. I have no idea when we're ever going to be in this position again. If I'm wrong, I might have to trade up all sorts of assets to have to get back up there to get a guy that I want. But I believe in the direction that we're going in, and I am not moving off it. That would be bold as hell. And I don't think he's going to do it. But if he does, hey man, you gotta. He's in the position for a reason, so he's got to trust himself, and if that's what he thinks, that's what he thinks. It's just I just think it'd be an enormous risk, and I wanted to underline how fortunate and how lucky. And I guess I'm sure plenty of people realize that, but when you really look at what happened for this to happen in back-to-back years, it was straight crazy. And so they got last year they passed on CJ. I got it completely. This year, you've got 2 guys who are going to go 1 and 2. And Bo Nix might go 3rd now after today's conversation. But you've got 2 guys who are going to go 1 and 2. And, it would be super bold if Poles decides to not do it. All right, let's talk about our friends at Ray CDJR. Are you in the market for a new vehicle? If you are, then we've got some great news for you. Our partner, Ray Chrysler Dodge Jeep and Ram in Fox Lake, is starting their Ray Resolution with the start.
I don't know who wrote the ad copy, but Resolution was right there. I don't know.
Yeah, Resolution. You're right. I mean, a Resolution, start something new sales event. You know what that means? It means you're going to be able to shop incredible savings. Listen to me here. Every new vehicle in stock, because they want to be clear and make a bunch of room for all the new vehicles that are coming in. So they got to clear the house, man. So for a limited time discount, wow, I'm off to a roaring start here. Get up to $9,000 off. That's the point. On new Jeep models with the dealer discount. That's not all. You can shop their last call on remaining 2023 Dodge Challengers, Charger models, Hellcats, Scat Packs, whole lot more. Dodge is the most powerful muscle car brand, so you don't want to miss on their last call with over 20 Dodge muscle cars to choose from. At Ray CDJR, you'll always be able to shop one of Chicagoland's largest inventories and drive home with more money in your pocket than you'd expect thanks to the Ray Price Promise. Don't miss out. Shop great deals all month long and save big because Ray CDJR makes buying a new vehicle more affordable than ever. By the way, you can get a free oil change when you mention CHGO at the service center or CHGO. Mention it when you book online at raycdjr.com/service. You have to schedule it before January the 31st. You're up. DraftKings, take your time.
That's right. As Mark goes and takes a bathroom break, I want to tell you guys about DraftKings Sportsbook. Make sure you use the code CHGO when you sign up. DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the National Football League playoffs, is bringing you an offer that'll help make the playoffs electrifying. New customers can bet $5 on any game and get $200 instantly in bonus bets. So, get your parlays ready. Get your bets down for the NFC and AFC championship games. I'm having friends over. They're all going to park in my cul-de-sac.
Nice.
That's right. And Carm's not
parking.
invited because he makes fun of that. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use the code CHGO. New customers, once again, can bet just $5 to get $200 instantly in bonus bets only on DraftKings Sportsbook with code CHGO. The crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.1800gambler.net. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly on behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort. 21 plus, age varies by jurisdiction, void in Ontario. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. See DKNG.com/football for eligibility and deposit restrictions, terms, and responsible gaming resources.
Well done. I was not even gone. I sat here the whole time.
Yep, you did it.
Yeah.
You
All right.
did it.
All right. Couple super chats that came in today.
Did you
British.
wash your hands?
I did. Because
And
fresh and clean,
the
buddy.
Results from the lie detector show, that
No,
was
no,
a
no.
lie.
You're not getting me ever again on anything. So that I covered my bases there too. I put a little fresh quaff in the old hair. British Bear Phil Cundy. Love the show. Is still going postseason. Will you be coming to London with the Bears next season? Would love to see you guys grab some beers. British Bear, we really, 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 really hope that we'll be there. Which, by the way, become a diehard. That would be a great thing to do.
There's plans in the work, so stay tuned for announcements when we do our schedule release show, which was a lot of fun last year, where I conjure up ways of us winning 12 games every season. We're gonna find out exactly when that game will be. And
When
maybe
is
plans
the
start
schedule release show? Is that when is
after the draft,
After the
sometime
draft.
in May.
That's all I care about.
Yeah,
Listen,
after the
we're
draft.
going 15-2 next year. Poles is going to have the greatest offseason of all time. I have no idea how it's going to go, but
Can
that's
you
what's going to
imagine
happen.
how many future Hall of Famers we're gonna have on the team by then?
I can't wait.
At least 7 more.
From our guy, No Look Pass. I think is this the first time we've ever gotten one from No Look? $9.99. Thank you, No Look. I love Fields and think he can be good on a consistent basis one day. It's been 3 years, and he has shown enough to pass on the high floor, high ceiling combo of
He
Caleb
has not
Williams.
shown enough, is what he actually said. Time to move on. So he,
Oh wow, he said he's not. Wow, okay.
yeah.
My bad. It's been 3 years, and he has not shown enough to pass on the high
That's what he
floor,
said.
high ceiling combo of Caleb Williams. Thank you. I was getting challenged here, along with everything else. Time to move on. All right, No Look. That was some love for Justin, and you're believing in Caleb. Got you. Chris Peguero, $49.99. Chris, appreciate you coming
Yeah.
in late here. Braggs, your point about the Raiders picks, yes, you have a point. But shouldn't it be more about, do you trust your GM to make the right selection? And with the sample size we have now, I have full trust in Poles. So whether we drafted one or trade it, I trust him.
I agree. I've said this for a while now, and people claimed it was flip-flopping, but I've said I trust in Poles. Do I think that Poles is going to draft Caleb Williams? Yes, I do. But ultimately, if he doesn't, we're going to have a meatball chucking party somewhere in the city where Corey Wooten and many others are going to throw meatballs at me, Carm, and I'm even going to make Hogue sit in on this now that we've made every show a Caleb Williams show here on CHGO Bears, and I know a lot of fans don't love that. But I have always said trust in Poles, and if he decides to run it back with Justin Fields, I will be very surprised, almost borderline shocked at that decision, but I do trust Poles. And as we've always said a million times, the 3 scenarios they have: trade back for a haul, draft Caleb Williams, draft Marvin Harrison Jr. All of those scenarios create an opportunity for the Bears to be very competitive next year and have a very exciting roster. So it's not always my side versus your side, my opinion versus your opinion. And everybody's wanted to drive each other into these corners and create a very toxic argument around this whole thing.
It's the worst.
And I get it. Sports are tribalistic by nature. But it doesn't have to be that way. We can try to drive the conversation in a healthier way. What I saw on Twitter this morning was bullshit. The way somebody went at Herb Howard for his segment with Adam Hogue, that was bullshit. And we need to, be adults. Not everybody on Twitter is an adult, so I think we got to keep that in mind. But at the end of the day, I think there's some of the rhetoric surrounding this conversation is bigger than football. And as we've talked about here today, I am fully capable of having a conversation outside of sports. So if anybody ever wants to hit me up in spaces or hit me up on DMs or come into our Discord spaces and have a rational, nuanced conversation about football or life, I'm more than willing to have it. But I just think when it comes to this whole quarterback decision and the tenacity behind it, the vitriol from fans in our chat, it's disappointing, but it is kind of what it is. So, we're trying to have fun with it here, but I think everybody needs to take a little bit of a step back.
It's always been an incredibly passionate discussion in Chicago, the quarterback. It was with Mitchell Trubisky. It was with Rex Grossman. It was with Kyle Orton. Justin Fields, because of the color of his skin, it's gone in directions that it just should not have gone into, period. The whole thing with Herb. Herb. First of all, Herb's great, and he's a great person, and all that. Second of all, Herb doesn't deserve that. Third of all, if you think that Herb is supporting Justin because Herb's black and Justin's black, it's just an insane thought. I mean, it just
nobody. There's very few that cover the team as well as Herb does, and he understands the game of football more than a lot of guys do on the beat. He played the game, and no, it's not just about that. However, if you also think that anybody here,
white guy Carm, doesn't like Justin because of the color of his skin, that it's offensive and it hurts, and that's what Braggs is getting at.
Right, but the other thing too is if someone looks at Justin Fields and relates to him because of the color of his skin, I'm black and he's black, and that's why I support him, that's okay.
It's great.
I don't.
Go ahead.
It's okay to root for people beyond just how good they are for your football team. People love Derrick Rose in this city because he was from the south side of Chicago. There was an emotional attachment.
Did you see his video about his journey?
No, and so that's
Derek's amazing. Right
so
now.
That's okay. But then I think the other aspect of it too is when you're talking about evaluating the quarterback position, people go, well, how can I be racist because Caleb Williams is also black, Justin Fields is black? To me, that dismisses the point I think some people are trying to make. It's about the intense criticism that black quarterbacks have to have and live to a higher standard that people take offense to, and I understand that. Daniel Jones has got an extra contract. He's not that good of a quarterback. Why can't Justin Fields get 4 years to prove himself? Mitchell Trubisky got 4 years to prove himself. And he's being judged by a standard that some feel, others aren't. And I think that's a fair conversation to have. And I'm totally willing to have that. At the end of the day, it's about the fact that the Bears have the number 1 pick. If the Bears had the number 9 pick, or the number 8 and the number 9 pick, and had no shot to draft a quarterback, we'd all be looking at the opportunity that Justin Fields and the Bears have to be a great team. It's not always about, I'm just trying to get rid of him, and I'm going to be hyper intensive in my criticism towards this guy. It could just be because there's an option that could be better, for the Bears. Sometimes it's just that simple.
Yes, we're all going to get along. That's the bottom line of this whole point. Lay off Herb, and
that was bullshit.
Yeah, and it was very few people too. So let's it wasn't like a cavalcade of attacks on Herb, but it was worth bringing up, and you got dragged into it. So thank you for getting it out here.
Well, right, and it was on our show. That's where it came from. I
think I was on that show.
You were on that show, so
But you just said it was Hogue and Herb, their conversation. Where was
that?
That?
But they were the ones that really,
you were
for
stuck in the middle.
battle.
I was just sitting there. Let's be honest.
Did you like the thumbnail I made on that?
I thought it was amazing.
I had Herb on one side, Herb's on one side, Hogue's on the other. I had Caleb in there.
Yeah,
I had
don't worry.
Fields in there, and
Oh,
then I
you're
had
so
you
good.
in the middle with a thought bubble and Bajent. You're just sitting there enjoying the battle, thinking about Tyson Bajent.
You're a very talented person. You know, Greg. Greg. You are. It's getting easier for businesses to switch to electric vehicles, Gregory. That's something we can all get behind for the health of the planet and for the well-being of all of us who share it.
I cannot believe that you're saying this right now, because I would have never guessed that we were, because the electric grid is evolving to meet your cleaner energy needs as we all move with confidence towards an electric tomorrow. Whether you have one delivery van or a whole fleet of shipping trucks, ComEd can help guide you to make the changes that make sense.
So what should business owners do, Gregory?
Go to ComEd.com/clean to learn more about the resources, fleet rebates, and infrastructure incentives available to help businesses go electric. If you own a business, don't wait. Start making your plan today to switch to electric vehicles. Good for business, good for the planet, good for all of us. Go to ComEd.com/clean.
Did you say ComEd.com/clean?
Yes, I did. Go now and see how going electric connects us to a better way of doing business and a better future for generations to come.
And a shout out to our friends at Empire Today, where you get the shop at home convenience, the right product for your needs, quick and professional installation, and the low price guarantee. Empire Today, the best place to get new flooring. And of course, there's a bunch of people trying to be like Empire, but they can't be beaten on quality, service, speed. And you're going to see some competitors out there going to say that they can do this for less, but they're low quality products. Empire doesn't carry that. This is the first class stuff that you get at Empire Today. They won't promise a low price, because anyone who does that is putting flooring in your home that they wouldn't put in theirs. That's what you love about Empire Today. Do to my home what you would do to yours. That's what they're doing. They also make it super easy for you to see what's going to happen. Their virtual floor designer, great way to see how the new floors will look in any space. It's easy. You just snap a picture and instantly see how new floors will look in your room. Do yourself a favor. Schedule a free in-home estimate today. All listeners get a $350 off discount when they use the promo code CHGO. Restrictions do apply. See EmpireToday.com/CHGO for details. Gregory, I got a question before we get out of here.
What?
When Jim Harbaugh gets announced as the head coach of the should-be San Diego but Los Angeles Chargers, and he's going to be in charge of Justin Herbert, are you going to have a minor Braggs meltdown? Will we see an avalanche of Braggs tweets?
I've accepted my fate.
You've accepted it.
Yes.
Because he was supposedly, Jordan Schultz had it that he was going to have a second interview with Atlanta, and then Schultz updated that he doesn't have that second interview. All signs point to the Chargers and Harbaugh. He was willing to look around, man.
Charbaugh.
Could have been Shybaugh, but it's Charbaugh.
Yeah, the
Yeah?
dream is dead. I was kind of hoping that he couldn't find a way to the NFL, and then he'd coach Michigan one more year, and then if things were, then you have an insurance policy in case things didn't work out next year. The dream is dead. Harbaugh likely to go to the Chargers. They've got a lot of salary cap issue there, so they've got a quarterback, but it's going to be interesting to see how he builds that team around him with the cap, problems they're dealing with.
Other breaking NFL news, well, not breaking now, but news of the last 24 hours. Joe Barry not going back to Green Bay, out as their defensive coordinator.
I know my Packer friends are super happy.
See you later, Joe Barry. Jeremy Fowler, ESPN, saying that Jerry Gray, the Falcons assistant head coach with Green Bay from 20 to 2022, is one name to watch in it. Chris Harris is also mentioned.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's another job that
Exactly.
the Bears obviously need a DC. Now they're fighting with the Packers.
So we're both looking at it, man. Interesting times up in Green Bay, and Ty and Cliff Kingsbury around the Eagles have interviewed the USC senior offensive analyst for their OC job.
Yeah, I feel like he needs a West Coast team.
You think he's a West
I don't think
Coaster?
he'd do good in Philly.
Okay.
Did you make anything of that Albert Breer quote of that Matt Eberflus was talking up. Did you see this yesterday?
I did not. I
You
missed
did not see it? You want me to read it to you?
I would love you to.
Because
After
NBC Sports Chicago put out an article, and they highlighted the fact that Eberflus defended Justin Fields in interviews with OC candidates. Like, kind of goes, I think, would be the smart thing to do. I don't think he'd be trashing Justin Fields to potential OCs that were coming here, regardless of what their decision to do. But it was something that gained a lot of reaction from Bears fans.
So I like that he's doing that. It doesn't, if you also, it's what he's saying, look at what he's doing.
Right. The way it was framed by Albert Breer was, of course, the chance potentially to coach USC's Caleb Williams was something mentioned to me as a drawing card by candidates for the job, though Eberflus did defend Justin Fields in the interviews, as I understand it.
Well, look, I believe that because look what he did. He got rid of Luke Getsy. He got rid of Andrew Janocko. He basically uploaded the entire staff with the exception of Chris Morgan and the tight ends coach. So I think Matt Eberflus clearly, by his actions, is telling you that he did not think that Justin Fields was coached to the best of making the best of Justin Fields, if you will. Leon Castle, by the way, $20. Thank you, Leon. QB is the CEO of the team, and JF1 is at best an average quarterback, and you have Caleb Williams at 1. Draft him, reset the clock, and use the cap monies to sign more good free agents, i.e. Mike Evans. That's an interesting name, but and he was,
love Mike Evans.
He was. I mean, how much is
10
left?
straight seasons of 1,000 yards receiving.
At some point, that thing's going to fall off, but he's been remarkably consistent. He was phenomenal.
Hey, they thought you were going to fall off, and look at you at your
advanced
age.
I am falling off. Did you
no,
see?
man, you're in your prime.
Excellent point. You're right.
Become a diehard. We're going to be doing diehard overtime as soon as this show is over. I'll be in there taking questions from anybody that wants to hang out and talk some Bears. Try to do diehard overtimes after each show, or as many shows as we can. Do about 15 minutes where we hang out. We do watch-alongs during the playoffs. On Sunday, NFC and AFC championship game, there's always a really big group of Bears fans hanging out in there, watching the game together, talking sports, and reacting to the game. So we'll be in there. And, of course, you get a free shirt right out the gate, exclusive content to Adam Hogue's weekly newsletters, our Bears 100 draft guide that's going to be coming out. The top 20 should be out very soon. All this exclusive content, free shirt out the gate, discount on merch, discount on events like our draft party that's coming up or tailgates next season, and access to all our other Chicago sports teams that we cover here at CHGO Sports.
And we really, really appreciate the support, too, for those who've done it. Looking forward to talking on the Overtime Chat coming up right here on the Discord.
And stick around for CHGO Cubs. They got Joe from Obvious Shirts in the building.
CHGO Cubs coming up at 1:30. Joe from Obvious Shirts is here. Sarah Fictor's producing.
And we got to set up the set, so stop talking. Let's get out of here.
Bye.
We all silly like the mayor.